Hey, so today for you I have a recipe video actually. It's a little bit different than what I usually do, but that's okay. This morning I was craving chili like none other, and I decided to make this little chili recipe that basically you throw everything in a crock pot or on the stove for most of the day and you just kind of let it sit there. So basically we have this amazing bowl of chili. You probably can't see because I don't want to spill it. So it's beanless and it's low carb. So if you are on a low carb diet like myself, then this is perfect for you guys. It's also relatively low calorie. It has about 270, 290 calories per serving, and it serves 8 people. 17.5 grams of fat in it as well, and 23.1 grams of protein. It has 8.5 grams of carbs, but 2.5 of which are fiber, so net carbs, it's only about 6 carbs per, serving. And again, I said it serves about 8 people. So anyway, if you ever want a delicious chili recipe like this, then keep watching. It's very easy to make. You just throw everything in a pot and let it sit for a little while. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy and stay tuned if you want to see how to make this. So here's what we're going to need first. We're going to need between 2 and 3 pounds of ground beef. Then we're going to need a pepper. Any pepper of your choice. I have a liking for bell peppers, so I got a green bell pepper. Worcestershire sauce. You can find this, if you're not familiar with it, you can find it in where you find barbecue sauce and ketchup and all the condiments. You're going to need an onion. You're going to need some mushrooms. You can omit these if you don't want them. I know I'm kind of a mushroom fiend, but I know a lot of people don't like mushrooms. They really don't make a huge difference in the recipe though, so you don't need them if you don't want them. You're going to need a couple cloves of garlic, tomato paste, and then there's a list of spices that you're going to need as well. You're going to need cinnamon, chili powder, whole bay leaves, ground cumin, allspice, red or cayenne pepper, and then your typical salt and pepper. So the first thing you're going to do is take the ground beef that I showed you first, and you're going to take any kind of skillet that will, hold the beef. You're going to chop it up and you're just going to brown the beef. Now while the beef is browning, what we're going to do is we're going to take all the dry spices and combine them into a little bowl. I'm just using this little yellow bowl. So we're going to start with cinnamon. We're going to take a teaspoon of cinnamon. Teaspoon of cinnamon, and just throw it in the yellow bowl. Then we're going to take a teaspoon of cumin and also throw it in the yellow bowl. Then we're going to take 2 teaspoons of salt and throw it in the yellow bowl. Then we're going to take 2 tablespoons of chili powder and throw it in the yellow bowl. Then we're going to take a teaspoon of black pepper and throw it in the yellow bowl. Then we're going to throw half of a teaspoon of cayenne into the bowl. Now cayenne is really, really spicy, so if you don't like as spicy of chili, then I would either omit this or use a different kind of spice that isn't as spicy. You can substitute for more chili powder if you like. I like the occasional spice, so I am going to put half a teaspoon in there. Then you're going to throw half of a teaspoon of allspice in there. And then I'm also going to throw the 3 bay leaves in there. If you've never seen a bay leaf before, they look like this, and they add a lot of flavor as well. So I'm going to throw 3 of those in the yellow bowl. So now our yellow bowl is full of all kinds of spices. So the meat is still browning, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chop up a whole onion. Alright, so I cut my onion in half so far. What you want to do is make it so it's very finely chopped. You want the little tiny cubes of onion. Now your onions should be all finely chopped up like this. So for the mushrooms, I'm only going to be using about half of this package, and this package is about 8 ounces. So I'm only going to be using about 4 ounces worth of mushrooms. Open it up like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump it right on my cutting board right next to the onions. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the pepper, and I'm going to cut the ends off and scoop out the middle. See this? We're going to take this out. So all the seeds and stuff, I'm going to put that in the pile on the corner of my cutting board. We're just going to throw those away afterward. We're not going to use those for anything. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chop this up into little strips like this. So now once we have these little rings of bell pepper, we're going to chop those up in the same fashion that we did the onion and the mushrooms. So I'm just gonna push the mushrooms over a little bit, create a little space, and then I'm gonna just chop away. So now we have this beautiful, colorful display of onions, mushrooms, and bell pepper. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 or 3 cloves of garlic, and we're going to mash those up in the same way we did this. So now I have these 3 cloves of garlic. You are welcome to mash them if you would like, but I don't have a garlic masher. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop them up the same way that we did the onions and the mushrooms and the bell pepper. So now we have this beautiful mix of garlic to the right, onions in the middle, mushrooms next to the onions, and bell pepper on the left-hand side. This recipe also calls for 4 cups of water, which is a quart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my measuring cup and I'm going to fill it 4 times with water. Now what we're going to do right now is to get a crock pot. Mine's right here, and we're going to combine all the ingredients together. As you may or may not be able to hear, my meat is still browning. It's basically done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all of these ingredients together in the crock pot along with the water and the Worcestershire sauce and the tomato paste, and then I'm going to scoop out the brown meat without the grease and just put it into my crock pot. If you were not using a crock pot and you wanted to just use a pot on the stove instead, what you would do is you would combine all the ingredients together like you would with a crock pot. You'd bring it to a boil and then you'd let it simmer for 3 or 4 hours whenever you think it would be done. We do want it to be a chili consistency, so it's going to be a little bit thicker. If yours seems a little watery, just let it boil off, or not boil off, but it'll steam off gradually as you continue to cook it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take 4 cups of water and put it in my crock pot. Once the water has been added, you're going to take a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and you're going to put this in the crock pot as well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our tomato paste to our crock pot. Now I'm going to add our little yellow bowl full of all those dry spices, and I'm going to put that in the crock pot as well. And then we're going to take all of the chopped onions and garlic and mushrooms and bell pepper, and we're going to put it in there as well. Now my meat is nice and brown, and I'm going to take this little, I believe it's a spaghetti spoon, but I'm going to use it to scoop out all of the meat, but without the grease, and put it in the crock pot. So now everything is in the crock pot as it should be. If you like your chili to be a little bit more soupy than it is thick, then feel free to add a cup or 2 more of water. My crock pot is on cook. If yours has a low, warm, or hot setting, usually it's like high or low, then turn it on to high and let it sit for about 3 to 4 hours. So we're gonna come back to this in about 3 or 4 hours. It is about 1 o'clock right now, so we're going to come back around 5 and then we'll check on it and let's see how it turns out. Okay, so we had an issue with the crock pot. It was all set up and everything, but halfway through it stopped getting hot, and so we moved it to the stove where it is currently sitting at a low temperature, and it has been simmering for a little bit longer than, I think total with the crock pot and everything, I think it's been simmering for about 3 hours or so. And I'm starving, so I'm gonna have some now. So this is our chili after it's simmering for about between 3 and 4 hours. It's very, very thick and it's super, super yummy. So we're going to get some already for Blake so he can have some right now. Oh, you don't want any bay leaves. Yeah, you don't want the bay leaves. That's okay, I understand. It's hot, you gotta blow on it.
I did.
You wanna blow more on it. Still hot?
It's really good, but it's really hot.
Well, you just need to wait for it to cool down a little bit.
Okay.
So what does it taste like?
Chili, but really good chili. It's got some cinnamon in it. You can taste the cinnamon. It's really good.
That's good.
And it's got a little bit of spice.
On a scale of spices, like 1 to 5 stars at like the Indian joint, how spicy? How many stars would you give this?
Like maybe 2.
2 stars. So it's like, it's not mild, but it's not exactly spicy either. I'd give it probably a 2.5. It's close to 3 stars.
Is there
But
garlic in here?
yes, there is.
Oh, good. Love garlic.
I know, who doesn't? People are wrong, like those, okay, yeah, right, okay. So now I'm gonna pour myself a bowl. Ah! That's a lot of chili powder.
Sausages in there.
What?
There's sausages in there.
No. We could, you know what, that would have been really good in the chili.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay. And it's done. Like, that's the good thing about the chili. You can pretty much eat it whenever you feel necessary, whenever you feel hungry. I have to edit this. Oh, that's okay.
What?
Just because blah, blah, words aren't coming out correctly. I'm not left-handed. You do this. You hold that.
Okay.
How much do you want?
A little bit more.
Like that much?
A little bit more.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
Good?
that. Yeah.
Okay.